Thanks for staying with us. My name is Daryl Kwawu. I want to begin with issues concerning LPG because it affects almost everyone. We need it. We use it every day. And while some consumers are expressing concern about the hikes in the prices of liquefied petroleum gas, especially in the second pricing window, gone up by 8%. Now, we've heard from the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, which is worried that it could also affect the efforts to increase the rate of penetration of LPG in households. The projection was 50% for 2030. Joining me is Vice President of the LPG Marketers Association, Gabriel Kumi, to understand what's currently happening as far as that industry is concerned. Good afternoon to you. So why are we seeing the hikes we are seeing now, sir? All right, we are going to fix the audio with...
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now, sir.
Thank you very much, Daryl. I was saying, basically, the factors influencing this rise in price are still the same. They still remain the price of crude oil on the international market, and of course, the stability or otherwise of our city. If you look at the previous window, crude oil was being sold under $80 per barrel. But as we speak now, crude oil is hitting $90 per barrel. And that is an increase of about 13–14% in the price of crude oil over the previous window. And once crude oil goes up, you expect the price of finished product on the international market to also go up. And that has happened. Unfortunately, our city for the past 2 months saw some appreciation, but it was relatively stable over the previous window. And even figures we are picking from today indicates that the cedi has started getting a little bit weaker against the dollar. So these are the main factors. Once your cedi is not showing enough strength to outweigh whatever increase that may come in terms of the crude oil price, you are likely to see an increase in the price of the product.
Well, as I was getting ready for the show, I mean, one of the questions I was asking is what can we do differently? Because we've talked about this several times, and the factors are constant, right? The cost of crude oil on the international market, the cost of how good or how bad our city fares. And I know that in times past, you've called for interventions from the side of government, and especially with regards to taxes, but we are not seeing anything.
We haven't seen anything, and this is a call we will continue to call. We will continue to call on government. We will not stop calling on government to remove taxes on LPG because it doesn't really make sense that the product you want to see its consumption go up, you put taxes on it. Why are Cote d'Ivoire and other West Africa countries even subsidizing the product? But we have put taxes on it. We believe that taxes are the first step government must take to ensure that the price of LPG comes down. One will say how much the price is if the taxes are removed and crude oil still goes up, we will still have the same effect. I'll say no. Any peswa that you put on the price of LPG goes a long way to decrease its consumption. And once the taxes are addition to the cost price of LPG, you can see that the taxes are having negative effects on consumption. So no matter how high crude oil price go, once the taxes of the product are taken off, we are likely to make some gains in terms of consumption. So at this juncture, we'll continue to call on government that, look, crude oil price has started rising again. We are hitting $90 as of today. The experts are telling us that going forward, the prices are going to escalate further. So this is the time for us to take up taxes on LPG. And unfortunately, the figures that we are seeing in terms of consumption are not too good at all. Last year, we dropped by 12% in terms of consumption. 2022, LPG consumption in Ghana dropped by 12% against that of 2021. And the figures we are picking from the first quarter of this year are even worse. So if government really wants to still hold on to this objective of increasing access and penetration to 50% by the year 2030, then government needs to take the bold steps. It needs to do the needful to ensure that the price of the product comes down. The drop in consumption can singularly be attributed to the rise in price of the product. There's no other reason why consumption of LPG is going down other than the price of the product. It's the price which is pushing a lot of people from consumption. So we need to tackle the price. Once the price comes down, commonsensically, you are likely to get a lot more people into the consumption because LPG is a product with an elastic demand. It's highly price sensitive. So the only way you can engender growth, the only way you can grow consumption is to take measures to bring prices down as possible so you can attract a lot more people into your consumption. So government objective could be achieved. When government set this objective, LPG penetration was around 25%, was around 25%. It's been 3 years on. Now consumption is going down. So even the 25% that we used to be in 2019, 2020, we don't think we think we are now going back to about 20% penetration level. So government objective can never be achieved if it doesn't really tackle LPG pricing.
Yeah, it reminds me of the recent campaign to promote the use of LPG, and I'm just thinking that is going to be unproductive looking at where we are right now. But
it's a waste. It's a total and absolute waste of money. Anybody that spends money trying to promote, advertising the use of LPG, how can you advertise a product that I can't afford to do? I can't afford the product, so why you are that the advertising means nothing to me?
Yeah.
We hear NPA and the World Bank doing a lot of advertising on radio and on TV, but we are saying that we are throwing a lot more money away by that because the consumers you are advertising the product to cannot afford. As affordability is the bottom line. We all sit on our televisions, listen to radios, a lot of products being advertised. If you can't buy that product, if you can't afford that product, if you can't have the means to afford that product, what is the use of that advertisement to you? We should rather channel that money towards subsidizing the product to the rural folks so they can afford the product.
Okay.
We sit in Accra and place adverts on TV and on radio, wasting money. We are wasting the taxpayers' money by those advertising if we don't tackle the price of the product.
Yeah, I just want clarity on one thing in terms of feedback you're getting from the government on maybe the possibility of taking away some of the taxes. Is it an it's not possible situation, or we'll meet you halfway? What are you hearing?
Well, I must say that MPA, from the information we are picking, MPA, especially the current chief executive of MPA, has done a lot. And we understand he has even presented a paper to cabinet through the ministries to ensure that we take up these taxes from the product. But for us and to the ordinary consumers, your effort is nothing unless and until it yields the desired result that the consumer, that the ordinary Ghanaian is expecting. So no matter the effort you are putting in, if that effort does not lead to the price of the product coming down, does not lead to these taxes being removed from the product, the ordinary Ghanaian will not see the effort we are making. But even though I must admit that, yes, we have picked intelligence that MPA is doing things like that and presenting petitions and papers to cabinet to consider that. But once cabinet has not considered it, the ordinary Ghanaian will not see it, any effort that you're making. So we will urge MPA to double that effort to really push that, because it's the most reasonable thing to do at this stage.
We have just 30 seconds. I just also wanted to ask you, I mean, we've seen the finance minister go to the annual spring meetings in the US. We're getting indication that we are going to have an IMF deal that we expect to have an impact on the city. So if in the coming days the city performs better than it is doing now, and well, I don't know about the prices of crude oil on the international market, How
So
is that? How do you think that would
it,
affect
it depends. It
the
depends on
pricing in the third window?
the net effect of the strength of the city, the gains that we make in terms of the strength of the city, and the escalating price of crude oil. If crude oil should go up and the city is not able to strengthen, we are not able to strengthen the city to neutralize the effect of the increase in crude oil, price will still go up.
All right.
And unfortunately, we have no control over the price of crude oil. So apart from the city being strengthened, the city itself being strengthened alone cannot give us the 100% assurance that the price of crude oil is going to go down. It depends on what the international price of crude oil is also going to play out. That is why we are talking about this taxes removal. That is something that we can control.
Gabriel Kumi is Vice President of the LPG Marketers Association. I appreciate your time with us this afternoon. Well, let's move on and talk next about tourism, because the government statistician, Professor Samuel Kwabena, has projected that the industry could generate 1.5 million jobs in the next few years if tourist sites are efficiently managed. He has been speaking to journalists in Accra.
The Ministry of Tourism, Art and Culture is projecting that our tourism sector should be the #1 foreign exchange earner based on their strategic plan. So they're setting 2027 as the timeline where the tourism sector would be the #1 foreign exchange earner. The second perspective is the employment potential of the sector. And again, the ministry is projecting that by 2027, the sector should directly and indirectly create about 1.4 million jobs. This domestic and outbound tourism survey is basically responds to one question: how attractive are our tourist sites and the number of people who visit these tourist sites? We're currently in the field conducting the Ghana International Traveler Survey. Heading into 2023, that is the latter part of the year, we're going to roll out the two other surveys, which is the accommodation unit survey and the tourism establishment survey. So these surveys would help us put together a tourism satellite account and track the country's potential in gaining the 1.4 million jobs that we seek to get, and also getting in excess of 1.5 billion USD from the sector. As I indicated, it's going to provide us with comprehensive information, and as part of the comprehensive information, we're going to see which sites they are visiting, what facilities are available, and the key word is how attractive are our tourist sites and whether it holds the potential to be the #1 foreign exchange earner and also create the 1.4 million jobs as the ministry has indicated.
At the station there, Professor Kwabena speaking there to journalists after the Ghana Statistical Service yesterday announced that it was going to conduct a survey to create a reliable database for the tourism sector. Joining me is President of the Africa Tourism Research Network, Emmanuel Frimpong. Good to see you, and congratulations on your new role as President of the Africa Tourism Research Network. I want to first begin with the survey that was announced by the Ghana Statistical Service yesterday to create a reliable database for the tourism sector. How important is that move?
Good afternoon, Daryl, and good afternoon to your cherished viewers. First of all, let me congratulate the Ghana Statistical Service for this initiative. If you look at what tourism has been doing in the country for the past few years, this has been long overdue. And for some of us, we've been talking about this for some time now. So I think it is the right direction that they have taken. We applaud them. But the question that we also need to ask is, I like the way they put it, reliable database. From where we stand, that is the question that we want to be asking. That is this thing a reliable database that they have? Who are the people that they are engaging? And we hope to see that we have relevant and reliable data as they have started the job.
Well, one of the expectations is that this reliable database will advise policy, and I'm just wondering, in terms of policy direction, how, whether we are on track. I mean, the Ghana Tourism Authority, I think earlier this month, launched its 50th anniversary and celebrations, and it talked about or touted the impressive growth we have witnessed in the tourism space in the last couple of years. In terms of policy direction, are we headed in the right direction? And how would this really help us?
To be honest with you, we are not. And just this morning, I made this allusion on one of our tourism platforms. And then last 2 weeks, when we launched the African Tourism Research Network, the topic that we dealt with was data. Is it a reliable one for us, and how relevant it is? So if you look at what we have at the moment, we are not using the data that we are supposed to be using because we don't have it in the first place. We don't have a reliable data that is informing decisions that we take in tourism. So more often, it's like we just sit down, put something together, and we decide based on this unreliable data that we have on our hands. And you mentioned last week, GTA launched the 50th anniversary of Ghana Tourism Authority. And one of the things that was done at the event was the launch of the tourism report, which came out. And we, as African Tourism Research Network, have put a team together and have studied the report. And we have a lot of inconsistencies, a lot of issues that we are hoping to sit down with GTA and look at how best can we get a reliable data that will inform decision making, that will inform policy. Because the way we are going about it, it is not the right way to go. So I'm excited. Ghana Statistical Service has come in. Interestingly, we have institutional place as a board member for Ghana Statistical Service. And we are open to work with them. And let me quickly chip in this. Just yesterday, I went to Tema to meet the traditional caterers there. There were just about 200. And I decided to do a quick survey. And I asked all of them, how many people employ more than 3 people as a traditional caterer? Interestingly, almost everybody there employs more than 3 persons. So if you have 200 people there employ more than 3 persons, we have 600 people employed by just a small group in Community 4 in Tema. So you multiply this by the numbers that we have in the country, but we don't have this data available for us to make an informed decision, have some strategy towards these traditional caterers who are employing thousands and thousands of people. So these are things that we keep talking about, and I'm happy that the government is coming on board. Hopefully, it will not be one of those talks that we've been having, but something that they really mean business and they want to do.
Yeah, and interesting to talk about jobs because the government statistician mentioned that we could create 1.5 million jobs in the next few years if we manage our tourist sites efficiently, and that comes up now and then.
He's right. Last 3 weeks, I granted an interview to Ghana News Agency, and I made mention of that. And during the COVID, I also made mention that even though we don't have data to support the job employment by this sector, we have over 800,000 people who are directly or indirectly employed in this sector. It is far more than that, but we don't have the data. So he's right. For me, we even already probably have more than the 1.4 million that they are projecting. For me, between now and to 2024, we should even be looking at 2 million to 2.5. And that is possible, Daryl. It is possible. We can do it, and we can easily do it if we are committed to it.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about some of the or maybe an assessment that you have done based on the data that was provided, the tourism sector report. I'm just interested in figuring out some of the loopholes or the challenges that you have discovered that you think needs urgent addressing. For instance, there's also talk about the high cost of hospitality services here in Ghana compared to other countries, the cost of hotel accommodation, for instance. How do we deal with such challenges?
Darryl, the bottom line is that as a country, and it comes back to data, because we don't have data to really figure out the contribution of the sector. So what we are doing is we are taxing the sector. We are doing everything indirectly to siphon the little that is supposed to go to investment in the sector. So investors in the sector are not able to plow back their profit into the sector and to employ more people. Beyond that, we also don't get support from the sector. If you take the car rentals, if somebody brings in a luxury car for the purposes of renting out, that person is supposed to pay importation tax, any tax, just like any normal person who is bringing a luxury car for his personal use. And this person is bringing this car in for the purposes of renting out. So these are issues that we need to start looking at, and then looking at how best can we support the sector. If we have the data to know that, okay, this is how much the sector is contributing, then we will have the right policy directed to the sector to support the sector. And I was excited the government statistician talked about the tourism satellite account that has been in the pipeline for years. We go on it, we come back, no commitment, no interest. So it is a challenge for every one of us. If we can pay attention to tourism, trust me, most of our issues, unemployment, revenue, all those things will be solved.
Great to speak with you, President of the Africa Tourism Research Network, Emmanuel Frimpong. Congratulations once again. We'll be looking forward to reading about the assessment you've made of the tourism sector report launched by the Ghana Tourism Authority. But before we go this afternoon, some civil society organizations are raising issues that there are not enough measures in place to fix our failure to tackle our debt crisis, and they fear we may be headed back to the IMF if we do not fix this. Ben Boachi, he is Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy. He spoke to us in the US where the annual IMF World Bank spring meetings took place.
Countries are in distress. The World Bank and IMF are failing to acknowledge that we are in crisis, primarily because the big countries are not involved in the crisis that we are seeing in our country. So civil society and other groups that think that countries in the global south are in crisis, and we need to acknowledge that. And that requires a quicker resolution to some of the debt problems that we do have in these countries. And to be able to do that, we need fair treatment. I mean, we had some of the panel discuss how decisions tend to be quicker when they have to deal with debt situations in bigger countries like Korea or Greece. But in Africa's case, the common framework that has even been set to be able to address issues much quicker is still not working. So we then need to have a fairer system of ensuring that when problems arise, we can deal with them much quickly than we are doing now. And beyond that also are the issues of sustainability and accountability in how debt procurement happens and what they are actually used for. And civil society is pretty interested in having conversations with governments to be sure that when we borrow, when we generate revenue, those revenues are used much more effectively to chart a sustainable path. So rather than just talking about the debt and how debts can be restructured or forgiven, we have to also look at the sustainability of our economies, all right, into a future where it's not going to be another 3 years of coming back to the IMF or another 4 years of coming to the IMF. And you saw the panel say, I mean, Sri Lanka and Ghana has gone to the IMF 17 times. Zambia has done it 13 times. So some may want to even predict that this is just another short-term measure, and then we're just back to the IMF. So how do we address those issues sustainably? By looking at our governance systems, our institutions, our political establishments, to ensure that they remain accountable and measured in how they procure debt and how they finance development.
In the Ghana situation, have you been convinced about the never again in terms of the structures, the structural reforms to ensure that we don't get here? I mean, we had the civil societies, other interest groups that raised the red flags, but it appears government didn't listen. Do you think that going forward, the never again, or listen, you still have some consent?
No, so this is how we are framing it. The never again has to be a conversation, not just from the political class, but all of us agreeing that we have to do things right so that we can be sustainable. in the way we manage our economies.
Ben Boache, Executive Director, ASAP, there, speaking to George Afe in Washington, D.C. That's the marketplace, everyone. Thanks for watching. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. DDEP banks have up to 2025 to restore minimum paid up capital. Industry records huge loss in 2023. Read more about that, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daryl Kwawu. Thanks for watching. We will be back same time tomorrow.